Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're continuing our overall reading of Martin Heidegger's Metaphysics. Now, we're going through it together, deep textual analysis for the book club. But know that once you get through Heidegger, you will level up, and then once you hear someone read it to you and you kind of think on it, it becomes more approachable. So, Heidegger is important for the history of philosophy, and as, influencers and such, so he's very important to read about. We were in his paragraph 143. Okay? Let's begin. Thus, the subulation of the principle of contradiction in Hegel's dialectic is not in principle an overcoming of the dominance of logos. Okay, so he's asserting Hegel's dialectic isn't able to overcome the dominance of logos in principle, but only in its highest intensification. So not just principle, highest intensification. The fact that Hegel gives the title of logic to what is really metaphysics, that is, physics, recalls both logos in the sense of locus of the categories and logos in the sense of the originary physis. Now this is interesting because he's contending that Hegel's logic is not really logic, it's metaphysics. That's quite funny. He's like, philosophers love slapping each other like that. It's really quite funny. So whenever like another person who enjoys philosophy tells another philosopher, right, you are not good at it, it's like, that's just what they do. So you have to enjoy the little jabs they take at each other. In the form of the assertion, logos itself has become just another thing that one comes across. Wow, that's a little bit nihilistic, right? This present at hand thing is something handy. Something that is handled in order to attain truth as correctness and establish it securely. Okay, so logos is something that's at hand, handy, which is kind of funny because if it's at hand, that means it's handy, right? And it is used to regulate truth and correctness and reveal it. Yeah, he's just reiterating points he's made earlier. So this handle for attaining truth can easily be grasped as a tool, organon, and the tool can easily be made handy in the proper way. Okay, so logos is a tool, and if it's used in the proper way, yeah, we'll definitely be able to attain more with it. So I don't think anyone would disagree with that, right? This is all the more necessary, the more decisively the original opening up of the being of beings. Okay, logos as the original opening up of the beings of beings, and his being is the capital B, and then the second beings is lowercase, has been suspended with the transformation of physis into eidos and of logos into categoria. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to say physis is going into eidos, so Phusis, into eidos, eidos, that is changing to that. And then the second part is logos is into categoria. So categoria is Kategoria, and then there's the line above the E. So logos into categoria. Sounds like he's saying logic is turning into mere categorization, an organization, instead of revealing a fundamental truth. Interesting. The true as the correct is now merely spread out about and afar by way of discussion, instruction, and prescriptions. I knew it. I knew he was going to go that route. SubhanAllah, thank you Allah. Thereby becoming ever more leveled out. Yeah, exactly. Exactly where I thought he was going to go with it. Discussion, instruction, prescription. Those are the sort of compartments and manifestations of logos, but it's not the action of itself, right? Logos must be made ready as a tool for this. Okay, so a goal that Heidegger is telling us to do then, essentially, is we need to make logos as ready in our toolbox as possible. The hour of the birth of logic has arrived. The hour of the birth of logic has arrived. Well, we could use some logic right now. It was thus not without justification that the ancient philosophy of the schools collected the treatise of Aristotle that relates to logos under the title organon. Okay, so he's bringing in Aristotle here. He gave us a new term Organon. And that is Organon. Now, I wonder which treatise that's in. And with this, logic was already brought to a conclusion in its basic traits. Okay, so Organon, via Aristotle and his treatises, brought the basic traits of logic out for us. Thus, 2 millennia later, Kant can say in the preface to the second edition of The Critique of Pure Reason that logic has not had to take a step backwards since Aristotle. Oh snap! So he's mentioned Aristotle and Kant here. Look at that. Nor to this very day has it been able to take a single step forward. Oh wow. So logic not being able to take a single step forward. Why so? Let's see. And thus to all appearance it seems to be complete and perfected. Aha. Okay, remember he went into the seeming and appearing. How logos turning into physis is supposed to become into apprehension, is supposed to become into its fully fledged revealed form. Now he said that logos was being, diluted by and kind of spread out across via instruction, discussion, and prescriptions. Whereas he seems to have wanted to be more of a potent tool ready at hand and to not necessarily be diluted and spread out. So, let's see. It does not merely seem so. It is so. For despite Kant and Hegel, logic has not taken a single step farther in what is essential and inceptive. Ooh. I wonder what the logicians of today say if they read that. Heidegger, you're hurting my feelings. The only possible step remaining is to unhinge it. Okay. Yeah, unhinge the tool so you can use it. That is, as the definitive perspective for the interpretation of being from its ground up. So looking at the base fundamentals, right? Because remember, he said the hour of the birth of logic has arrived, right? You need it now. Now the Organon is interesting because that was related to Aristotle saying the basic traits. If it's the basic traits, it's the fundamental traits. So when he says from the ground up, he's sticking to his guns on it. Let us now look over everything that we have said about physis and logos. Physis becomes the idea, paradigma. Truth becomes correctness. Okay, so logos, physis, idea, correctness. Logos becomes the assertion. The locus of truth as correctness. Truth, logos can't be anything but truth, so therefore it would always systematically be correctness then, right? As long as we're not diluting it, right? The origin of the categories, the basic principle that determines the possibility of being. Okay, so logos is the origin of the categories, so I was right on the path, because remember, discussion, instruction, prescription, but he doesn't want it just to be mere categorizations, right? Because he doesn't want logos to be to categoria, remember? Idea and category will now be the two titles under which stand Western thought. Oh, that's a little tart. Ideas and categories. Theories and classification. Denotations. Yeah, seems kind of like we do that. It helps us put structure, right? Because when people think of language, they do think of structure. Remember, he got into the language aspect there. So, you can't really blame him. Action and appraisal, under which stands all Western Dasein. Now, notice this term, Western Dasein. Okay? So, ideas and categories, Western Dasein. He mentions Kant and Hegel's logic, but also Aristotle's logic and his treatise, the Organon. All terms that you will become familiar with, not necessarily in Philosophy 101, but it helps. Physis, eidos, logos, and categoria. Okay, so what do you think? What do you think so far? The Critique of Pure Reason, gotta be a book we gotta put on our bucket list, right?